What's up guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. In today's video I'll be showing you guys how to make this Apple logo design on your pocket or whichever place you want to place it. I'll be taking you guys through the step by step of this video. We are going to like cut it together, iron it together, and do everything step by step. So make sure you give the video a thumbs up, and if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, make sure you smash the subscribe button in order to subscribe. Let's get into the video. The very first thing you're going to need is your interfacing. This is a collar stay. You can see this is a collar stay. I usually use collar stay for my pocket so that it's going to look firm. So the wideness of my pocket itself is going to be at a total of 4.5 inches, right? You can see that it's going to be at 4.5 inches, and the height of the pocket is going to be at 6 inches. You can see that. So I'm going to simply cut out 6 inches. If you are using an original collar stay, it's going to simply tear off and straight if you're using an original one. But if it's a fake one, you just have to use your scissors. You can see that. So after you get your accurate measurement, 6 inches by 4.5 inches, depending on the design in which you want the down part to be. If you want it to be cuff, you can simply go for the cuff, or you can simply go for the square. But on this one, I just want a very simple design like this. So I'm just going to trim out that edge area. You can see that. So if you trim it together, it's going to give you exactly the same measurement at both sides. So this is what we are going to be having. So you can see this. So the next thing we're going to do now is to draw our logo, which is the Apple logo on itself. We're going to have to draw it in a pieces of paper. So this is just a paper, whichever paper you have, maybe a pattern paper or whatever. This is a white pattern paper actually. So whichever paper you have, this is what you're going to be using. So I'm going to get the center point of the pocket. So at the center point of the pocket, I'm going to get my exact measurement. What is the height I want to do for the logo? I'll be using 2.5 for the height, and I'll be using 2 inches for the wideness of the logo itself. So exactly on the paper, this is what I'm going to be doing. At the center point of my paper, I already fold the paper into two, just the way I fold the interfacing itself. So I'm going to get my 2.5 inches and my 2 inches, which is going to be the center part of where the logo is going to be, divided it into two. I'm going to place it right here. You know, I already fold my paper into two places, so I'll be having two if I open it. So I'm going to mark 1 inch here and 1 inch at this place also. So the total wideness of the logo design is going to be inside this frame that I'm drawing right here. You can see this, just like this. So the design is going to be inside of this frame, as you can see. So now, in order to draw an Apple logo, it's going to be simple. I'm very good at sketching. Actually, I'm good at sketching. So just follow me, just follow along. You can see how I do that side, and I'm just going to make a curve all the way like this. You can see that. If you're trying to sketch something that you are not sure about, you don't have to use the edge of the pen. All you have to do is just to use the edge of the pen in order to like fade and do a closing. You can see what that side is going to look like. You can see that. So at the down part, all you have to do is just to make a curve, just something like that. So there will be difference between the upper part and the other side. So let me cut this out. You can see that. So whatsoever I'm drawing at this side is going to reflect at the down part also. So this is what my apple is going to look like. You can see that. So after I get that, I'm going to simply cut out. Make sure you get it very accurate. You can see that. Make sure you align them together very well. I'm going to simply cut it out. It's a paper, so just trim it out. Very simple. You can see that. You can see what I'm doing. You can see that. So when I open this up, this is what I'll be having. This is what my logo is going to look like. You can see what I'm having here. So now, in order to cut out the bite on the side, I'm just going to make a curve. Just take your time. Just a little bit of this. I just checked the Apple logo now so that I can confirm the depth and how the thing is. So just curve out side. I'm just trying to look at the Apple logo. Okay, so just cut out the side. You can see what I'm having here. So I'm just going to cut out that side out. You can see, take your time. You can see that. So this is what I'm going to be having. This is the leaf on top of the Apple logo, but the leaf is not as big as this, so I'm going to have to trim this out a little bit. You can see that, just trim it out. This side also, trim it out. You can see that. So this is how small this is going to be, something as tiny as this. So this is what our apple is going to look like. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I want you guys to pay attention to this before we transfer this logo design. We're going to transfer this design, this shape, we're going to transfer it on our pocket. So now I want you to pay attention to this place because you might get it wrong. This side that has gum, that is where, this is the wrong side. And this is the side that has gum. This is where we are going to transfer our logo to. So I will have to fold the pattern to the back. You can see that. So this is where there is gum. This is where there is gum on the interfacing. That's where we are going to transfer the shape to. So you see what I have here. So now, make sure you align the shape very, very well on the interfacing. Make sure there's no space in between. You can see that. And I'm going to simply trace out that design just straight up like this. You can see what I'm doing. I'm going to trace it out. You can see that. Just trace it exactly out. You can see. So after tracing it out, you can see what I will be having here. When I open it into two, you can see I already have one side. So on this other side right here, I'm just going to align it exactly the way I traced that other one, and I'm going to trace the second side. If assuming it's just like a round shape, I won't have to trace the other side. I can just cut it out from the one side. So I have to trace this one also out, and also the bite, I will have to like simply trace it. You can see that. Can see that. So this is what we're going to be having. You can see that. So also the leaf on top of the apple, I'm going to also trace that one also. So I think this is actually big. Let me trim it out a little bit. So I'm going to have a smaller part. Okay, so I'll have to trace this one also out. So here, just make sure it's slant enough. That's how it's going to slant. You can see. And I'm going to trace it. I'm trying to confirm the logo. Okay, so here we're going to simply trace it like this. You can see that, and I'm going to trace it from this other side. You can see. Just take your time. Take your time, make sure you're not rushing. You can see. So this is what we're going to be having. You see what we have so far. So after we get to this level, the next thing we are going to do now is to simply cut it all out. We're going to cut out that shape in which you just traced now. We're going to take our time to cut it out. So just place those papers at the side and just cut the center part. So after cutting the center part, I'm going to simply trim it out. Just like this. You can see that. You can see that. You can see what I'm doing. Just take your time and make sure you don't like slit it longer than where it's supposed to end. So just take your time. You can see what I'm doing. And you're going to do exactly the same thing on the smaller part also. You're going to trim it out. You can see that. You don't have to rush, just take your time and simply trim it. So now I've gotten to the end right here. You can see that. I'm just going to trim it out. So this is what we're going to be having. All these edges, make sure you cut them out in order to have a straight shape. You can see that. So this is what we're going to be having. So at this upper part also, just make a simple cut right here and simply trim it also out. Very simple. Just trim it out and take your time. You can see that. Just follow it along. You can see what I'm doing, and this is what I'm going to be having. You can see that. So after trimming this out, the next thing we're going to do now is on our fabric. So on my main fabric right now, this is the black that I'm going to use for my pocket. So this is my main pocket. So at the wrong side of the fabric, so I'm just going to mark that part. On the wrong side of the fabric, I'm going to simply place my interfacing. You can see that. I'm going to place my interfacing and simply iron it to the fabric. And after ironing it, I'm going to fold it like my normal pocket. Like a normal pocket, I'm going to simply fold it. And let me show you guys the results. Then we can continue with the trimming part. So this is what we're going to be having. You can see I already fold the edges of the pocket. This is what my pocket is going to look like normally. So now I want you guys to pay attention at this place. This is very important. At this center part, I'm going to have to trim out this part. So I'm going to make a simple notch at the center so I can follow my trimming. So here I'm going to leave a little bit of inches, maybe like a quarter of an, a little bit more than a quarter of an inch actually. So I'm going to leave it at this side. You can see that a little bit more than a quarter of an inch. So I'm going to simply, and also at this one, I'm going to just make a slit at the inside and simply cut it out. So let me show you guys. I'm going to simply trim out this side. Make sure you leave that inches. That's what we're going to fold inside in order to give us the O shape itself, right? So just simply trim this out. You see what I'm doing? Take your time. You don't have to rush. You can see that. You can see that. You can see that. Just take your time. You see what I'm doing? See what I have so far. So also this one, I'm just going to make a simple notch in the center part. You can see that. Just so here I'm going to make a notch right here, just a notch here. You can see that. I want you guys to pay attention at that place. I'm going to make a notch here also. You can see that. So I'm going to make a notch at this place so I'll be able to fold it backward. You can see that. And also here I'm going to make a notch. So you see what I have now. So if I push this backward, I'm going to have a sharp edge from the front part. You can see that. So I'm going to use an iron to control all of that. So here I'm going to make a notch all around this. You can see what I'm doing. Just make a notch at those edges. You see what I'm doing? You can see that. You can see that. You can see that. You can see that. Just make a notch all around. See what I have so far. So after making those notches, you can see that all I'm going to do now is to control this part. So you're going to need your iron. Make sure your iron is at a very normal temperature. So I'm going to simply turn this backward. You see what I'm doing? You can see that. You can see, and simply iron it down. And when I turn this to the right side, you can see what we are having, how smooth the side is looking. You can see how smooth that side is looking. So you're going to do exactly the same thing on all of those edges. Also this one, you're going to fold it backward. You can see that. You're going to fold everything backward. Take your time and get it to that stage. So when you get to this stage, you can see that it's not relaxing very well. You can see what we are having in the front. It's not as relaxed as possible. So now what you're going to do is very simple. You're going to put an hemi gum, just the tiny pieces of hemi gum. You're going to cut your hemi gum into like three, so that you're going to have something very tiny. So just at the back of your fabric, you're going to place the hemi gum and you're going to start using it to iron it down. You can see. So now you're going to be using the tip of your iron. Just the tip of your iron is okay. You can see that. And simply push the hemi gum underneath this place. This might take a bit of your time, but it's worth it actually. It's worth it. So just take your time to simply align it all around. You can see that. So you can see what I'm having. You can see that it's relaxed already. So you're going to do this all round. Also the smaller parts, you're going to do it all round. Just take your time to align everything and simply make sure it is relaxed. I'm trying to show you guys this part so that it will be clear and obvious for you guys. So when you're doing it, you won't make a mistake. You can see, just push the gum underneath the fabric and simply iron it down. You can see that. So just do it all around, and also the smaller one, so you can have that smooth edge. So after this is what we're going to be having. You can see how smooth that is looking. You can see how smart that looks. So this is what we're going to be having. You use your hemi gum to fold. You can see even the smaller one is relaxed as possible. And from the front side, you can see that we are having no thread or anything. So here on these edges right here in the front part, I'm going to use my iron, just the tip of the iron, to iron all of those edges in order to make sure it is balanced. You can see that. Just take your time to iron it. See what I'm doing? In order to make sure those edges are rhyme. You can see that. Also the smaller one. So this is what I'm going to be having so far. You see that? So after this is done, the next thing we are going to do now is to cut our wording and do the puff. So let's get into that. So this is our wording. You can see this is what we're going to be using. There are different sizes of this. If you're using a thicker one, you won't be using more than 3. But I have a lighter one here, so I'll be using 4 pieces of this. 4 pieces of this. So I want you guys to pay good attention to this process. So in order to get these 4 pieces of this, I'm going to simply fold this together. So I'm going to cut 4 pieces of this. So now you see I have one. So I'm going to make sure the gum part, you can see this is the gummy part of the wording. I'm going to make sure the gum part is actually facing one another. You can see this. Just place it like this. And also this one, place it like this. So after getting that, I'm going to simply iron it together so that the 2 gumming parts are going to face one another. So when they are facing one another, I can easily use one to cut 2. And I can easily use the second one also to cut 2. So I'm having 4 pieces facing one another. You can see that. And they are gummed, so they cannot shake or remove or move from anywhere to anywhere. You see that? You just take your time to iron it. If you are enjoying this video so far, make sure you smash the like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you are yet to subscribe, like, why have you not subscribed to the channel? So far I will be taking one of the wording. You can see that, and I'm going to place the paper on it, the pattern paper, and I'm going to simply cut out the pattern just like this. You can see that. Just trace out that Apple logo. You can see what I'm doing. Just trace it out. Take your time, trace it out. You can see that. Make sure you align it very well, and also trace this side out. You can see that. Also trace, make sure you align it very well. It's very important. And also trace this side also. You can see that. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. You can see that. You can see. You can see that. All you need is just the shape of the apple itself, and if you're not holding it firmly, you might make a mistake. You see what I'm doing? So this is what we're going to be having. You can see. So exactly the same thing, we are going to do the same thing on this one also. Then we can simply gum this together and get the smaller, which is the leaf on top of the apple. So after cutting the two, you can see, so we're having 4 pieces of this. You see that? Just place them one on top of another. So also the same thing in which we did, you're going to get 4 pieces of this. So just align this one also on the wording. See that? Align it on the wording and simply trim it out. Also trim it out and get that shape. So you're going to get, like, you're going to cut 2 pieces of this as well in order to give you the 4. You see that? I'm trying to focus. Okay, it's focused now. You can see that. You can see what I'm doing. So you can see that. So you're going to do exactly the same thing in order to get the second pieces also. Then we can continue with the process. You can see that. So now that we've gotten 2 of this, the next thing we are going to do now is to gum these 2 together. And also the apple logo itself, we are going to need to gum it together. So in order to gum it together, all you have to do is just to simply put an hemming gum on top of one, just like this. Take a closer look at what I'm about to do. Just put an hemming gum right here, just on top of it, on the edges, and also here. Put an hemming gum right there. You can see that. And now all you have to do is just to sprinkle some water on top of it. The water is basically in order to give that heat. The heat is going to be the one to melt the hemming gum itself. So just sprinkle some water on top of the hemming gum. You can see that, and simply place this on top of it. Make sure you align it very well. You can see that. Make sure you align it very well. You can see what I'm doing. Make sure it is aligned very well, and simply cut out this hemming gum. This part, just cut it out, so it's not going to glue to the iron itself. So cut it out. You can see that, and simply place your iron. So the heat inside the iron, the heat that is heating the water, is going to melt the hemming gum inside of the wording, and it's going to simply glue together. So you can see what I'm having. You can see what I'm having. So here, simply gum it together and make sure it is hot. So the same thing you're doing here, you're going to do it on the smaller one also, so you can gum the 2 wording together on the smaller one as well. So let me do that first and show you guys, so we can get to the next stage. So you can see after we get the 2 and you already gum the 2, so this is what we're going to be having. So the next thing we're going to do now is on our fabric. So these are our pockets. All we have to do is just to do the turn up. So on our fabric, this is the fabric I'll be using for the apple itself, which is going to pop out from the black. You can see that. So this is what I'll be using. So in order to do this, the first thing, I want you guys to pay attention at this place, because you might make a mistake. This is going to be like this, and because we want the yellow to be the one to pop out, so I'm going to turn this. Make sure the apple bite is actually facing the other side of the apple pocket itself. You can see that. So when I turn this to the front, the bite is going to align to the pocket, and it's going to simply go inside. So after that is done, the next thing we are going to do now is to cut out our interfacing. So on this one, I'll be using a very soft interfacing. I'll be using a very, very soft interfacing. You can see what I have here. And the gum part of the interfacing, I'm going to simply place it on top of the wording and top of the fabric, just like this. You can see that. And I'm going to simply iron it all around. So I'm going to iron the center part first. You can see that. And I'm going to simply iron it all around. You can see that. This is the most important part of the design, so you have to just take your time. Take your time to do that. You can see what I'm doing. Simply iron it all around. So after you iron it, I'm going to trim out the excess on the interfacing, so it's not going to like be affecting my ironing. So I'm just going to trim it out and start shaping the apple itself. After trimming out, you can see what I'm having. So the next thing is now to iron the apple itself. So you can see what I'm doing. Just take your time at this place. Take your time to iron it. All you have to do is just to bring out the shape of the apple logo itself. So I'll have to like do this step by step, just like this. You can see that. And make sure you are bringing out the design. You can see. All you have to do is just to gum the fabric itself to the interfacing underneath. Do you understand that? So gum the fabric itself to the interfacing underneath. That's all you have to do. So make sure your iron is at a very high temperature, so you can actually gum the corners of the apple logo itself and the edges. So you're going to do it all around. You can see what I'm doing. Take your time. Take your time. You see that? You can see that. You can see that. You can see what I'm doing. It's not that difficult. You can see that. So here you can see how I'm getting that shape. So here at this place, make sure you pinpoint that edge in order to actually bring the shape of the apple itself. You can see that. And also at this corner right here, you're going to do the same thing. So you're just going to do it all around, then you can actually do the finishing. Also at the bite corner, at the bite area, you just have to simply pinpoint that edge also. You can see what I'm doing. You can see that. You can see at that bite corner, simply iron that plate also out. You can see I'm actually playing this so that you can follow me, you can follow along and get exactly what I'm doing, or actually get better than what I'm doing. You can see this. Take your time to just get that accurate. Once you get this part, the other part is actually very, very simple. So take your time. So this is what we're going to be having after. You can see this from the back and also from the front. This is what you're going to be having. So make sure you iron it down and it is as smart as possible. So the next thing we are going to do now is to do our stitch. You can see this can easily go inside of the apple logo, or we can simply stitch it all around. But also on this one, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to have to exactly the same thing we did here. You're going to take a fabric and simply do the turn up also for this design. So make sure you align the angle of that leaf on top of the apple also. So I'm just going to trim out these corner edges of both sides before we continue. So you can see this. So here, if it's going to be like this, so I'm going to have to turn it like this. So in order to fix it, you have to turn it to this side. You can see that. So when you turn it to the front and you turn the yellow up, you're going to have your that thing actually balanced. So here, I'm just going to place this right here. You can see that. And I'm going to do the pop-up on this one also. So you can see this is what we're going to be having. So when we're done with this, the next thing is to simply take it to the sewing machine and align both sides. So we have the two apple logo, the leaf and the apple itself. So you see this is what we're going to be having, and this one is going to come from that inside. So we are going to sew the apple logo first before we do the second one. So in order to get a firm stitch, right, in order to get a stitch that's going to be at that very, very corner, I'm going to be using an invisible zip footer. You can see that this is the footer for invisible zip. You usually come in two, the one that's facing the right and the one that's facing the left. So I'll be using the one that is going to be facing the right on this one, so I can simply do the stitch. So I'm just going to change my invisible zipper and I'm going to continue with the stitch. So after changing the footer, the next thing I'm going to do is to start my stitch. So I'm going to start my stitch from the other side. This not the bite area, the other side. So let me zoom in closer so you guys can follow up very closely. So I'm going to start my stitch from here. You can see that. Make sure your apple is exactly at the center part. You can use your hand to do the control. So right here, you can see this. You can see that just right here. I'm going to start my stitch. You don't have to rush, just take your time and simply follow up. You can see what I'm doing. You can see that. Just take your time. You can see that. You just have to stitch it all round, and you're going to do the smaller one also like that. Just follow it all around. You can see that. So after, this is what we're going to be having. You can see what that's going to look like. You can see the logo itself. You can see how puff that came out. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to do the smaller one. So in order to fix that smaller one, I'm going to simply trim out this edge. So this is going to be inside here. You can see that. You can see that. So I'm going to simply trim out those excess fabric from the inside. This ones. This fabric, I'm just going to trim it out so I'll have a room to work with the smaller one. You can see that. Trim out those excess. You can see that. So I'm going to simply place this one here, just inside. You can see what I'm doing. Just push it inside and I'm going to start the second stitch. So make sure you push the puff inside of the black. You can see that. Just like that. You see what I'm doing? I'm going to start my second stitch. All you have to do is simple. All you have to do is just to stitch it round also. Just stitch the corners round. You can see that. You can see that. Stitch it round. So after stitching it, this is what you're going to be having. You can see how sleek that is looking. You can see how smooth those edges are. So I'm going to trim out the threads on the back side, and I'm going to simply cut out those excess fabric on the side. You can see that. And this is what our result is going to look like. You can see how smooth that look. If you like the video so far, make sure you give it a thumb up and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are yet to subscribe. So this is going to be our final result, and make sure you smash the like button. So this is what we're going to be having. You see how smooth and how sharp the design came out. So that's about it on this video. I personally unpick a particular video for you guys on the screen right now. So after watching this video, I will want you to go and watch the next video, which is about how to do another design that you guys are going to love. In case you want to join our classes, a link will be in the description below. See you in the next video.